The Zunyi Conference was successfully held. The CCP tried its own revolution for the first time and needed to be in charge. It severely criticized and corrected the mistakes of leftist adventurism. However, Chairman Mao was also elected as the Standing Committee of the Political Bureau of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China at the meeting. Commissioner. In this election, the Politburo Bogu, Zhou Enlai, Jiang Wenqin, Wang Jiaxiang, Chen Yun, Chairman Mao and Zhu De held the right to vote. Relevant data show that at the moment when the votes were 3-3, Wang Jiaxiang voted for Chairman Mao's key 1 vote, and finally got 4 votes to pass, so who among the 7 people voted for Chairman Mao? First of all, Chairman Mao will definitely raise his hands to support himself. This is by no means that Chairman Mao is not humble, but that the desperate situation of the Chinese Revolution did not allow Chairman Mao to be modest. The next person to raise his hand in support of Chairman Mao should be Jiang Wenqin. At the 5th plenary session of the 6th Central Committee, Jiang Wenqin became the secretary of the Secretariat. At the 2nd Congress of the Chinese Soviet, he was elected as the chairman of the People's Committee of the Central Government. He was the real leader of the real power in the Red Army at that time. Calling for the Zunyi Conference, Jiang Wenqin not only contributed the most, but also made a strong counter-report against Bogu at the meeting. Therefore, no matter whether he is sincerely thinking about the Chinese Revolution, or because he has no way out because of the embarrassment with Bogu, Jiang Wenqin will raise his hand to support Chairman Mao. Bogu made no secret of his opposition to Chairman Mao. Therefore, during the election, Bogu will definitely not raise his hand. Besides Bogu, there must be someone who did not raise his hand. Who are these people? This person must be Chen Yun. In 1925, Chen Yun participated in the May 30th movement and joined the Communist Party of China. After joining the party, Chen Yun began to work underground in Shanghai. Due to the proximity to the party's Central Committee hidden in the foreign concession in Shanghai, it was only at the end of September 1930 that Chen Yun was co-opted as an alternate member of the Central Committee at the 3rd plenary session of the 6th Central Committee. And more than 3 months later, at the 4th plenary session of the 6th Central Committee held on January 1931, when Wang Ming and others began to control the party's Central Committee, Chen Yun was appointed as a member of the Central Committee. What is particularly rapid is that just in September, after it was decided that Wang Ming would go to Moscow and Zhou Enlai would go to the Central Soviet area, Wang Ming and Zhou Enlai appointed Chen Yun as one of the 6 members of the Provisional Political Bureau of the Central Committee. In March 1932, Chen Yun became a member of the Standing Committee of the Provisional Political Bureau of the Central Committee. It only took Chen Yun 8 years from participating in the revolution to joining the party, from joining the party to becoming a member of the Standing Committee of the party's Central Committee. At this time, Chairman Mao, who not only participated in the establishment of the Communist Party of China, but also created the Chinese Workers' and Peasants' Red Army and opened up the Central Soviet area, was only an alternate member of the Political Bureau of the Central Committee. The promotion of Chen Yun's status in the party is entirely due to his clinging to Wang Ming and other 28.5% Bolsheviks. Therefore, Chen Yun must have supported Bogu at the Zunyi meeting. If Zhou Enlai and Zhu De had unreservedly and proactively supported Chairman Mao at the Zunyi meeting, then in the election process, there will be an absolute advantage of 5-2. Therefore, Wang Jiaxiang's vote for Chairman Mao was not so important. And only among Zhou Enlai and Zhu De, one of them supported Chairman Mao, and the other did not express it. So who can support Chairman Mao? Who has expressed his support? At the Zunyi conference, Zhou Enlai not only made a sub-report reviewing the wrong military line, but also took his own responsibility. Zhou Enlai sang both red face and bad face, the purpose of which was to draw Chairman Mao, so Zhou Enlai must also be support Chairman Mao. However, Zhu De is more interesting. There is no relevant information to show how Zhu De fought against the right line at the Zunyi conference. At the Zunyi conference, where the left-leaning erroneous military line was liquidated, Zhu De, the chairman of the Central Revolutionary Military Commission and the commander-in-chief of the Red Army, had always been more forbearing, but said harshly, "If we continue to lead like this, then we will not be able to follow." Zhu De, the chairman of the Revolutionary Military Commission and the commander-in-chief of the Red Army, has always been in the highest military command of the Red Army. As for why Zhu De didn't raise his hand, it's very meaningful. Looking at the relationship between Zhu De and Chairman Mao is very good, all the way from Jinggangshan. There is even a saying that Zhu and Mao's family, the vote held by Mr. Zhu must belong to Chairman Mao, but he was not in a hurry to express his opinion. Later, Wang Jiaxiang voted with the crucial vote, there is no need for Zhu De to make a move. Zhu De's intention can be said to be Chairman Mao's true bosom friend. Zhu De's not taking action also reflects Zhu De's precious qualities of starting from the overall situation, uniting the team, forbearance, and prudence, and being more lenient than others. In his speech, Wang Jiaxiang pointed out, facts have proved that China's Red Army and China's Revolutionary War should and must be led by a Chinese revolutionist with practical experience like Chairman Mao in order to win victory. He solemnly suggested, immediately reorganize the Central Military Command Organization, cancel the military command of Lida and Boku, and let Chairman Mao participate in the military command. So when there were 3 votes in the voting, Wang Jiaxiang naturally raised his hand to support Chairman Mao and became the Mr. Key of the meeting, which filled Wang Jiaxiang with a sense of accomplishment. It also made Chairman Mao express his gratitude to Wang Jiaxiang when he talked about this matter many times later. At this point in the election, there were already 4 votes, and Chairman Mao was successfully elected as a member of the Standing Committee of the Political Bureau of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China. We have been fighting day and night for many years on the front line of disseminating the Red Culture Network. Without everyone's support, this work would be very difficult to carry on. Friends, please don't leave immediately after reading, and give a reward as appropriate for encouragement. Thanks. Ever heard of the butterfly effect? It means that a small change triggers a series of chain reactions, which eventually lead to great changes in the world. This is the case with the current German economy. Germany is a well-deserved economic engine of the European Union and one of the most powerful countries in the Western world except the United States. In the past, when people talked about Germany, it was the impression of the son-in-law of the Dragon King. There was a feeling of paying homage to the emperor, because German technology and exports were indeed very powerful. But recently there was a huge piece of news that completely overturned everyone's perception. After the foreign trade between Japan and South Korea collapsed, Germany also collapsed. In April this year, Japan's trade deficit was 432.4 billion yen, $1 equals 137 yen, a year-on-year decrease of nearly 50%. This is Japan's 21 consecutive months of trade deficit. Collapsed. In April this year, South Korea's exports decreased by 14.2% year-on-year, and the trade deficit was $2.62 billion, a deficit for 14 consecutive months. Collapsed. Still in April this year, the German Federal Statistical Office released data on May 22nd. In April, seasonally adjusted exports to countries outside the EU were 56.5 billion euros, a month-on-month decrease of 5.7%. A year-on-year decrease of 2%. Exports to countries outside the EU amounted to 51.5 billion euros without seasonal adjustment, a year-on-year decrease of 5.2%. Collapsed. Objectively speaking, the collapse of Germany is lighter than that of Japan and South Korea, but the rift has indeed begun. After all, their industry started early and belonged to an old capitalist country. However, the current economic crisis in Germany should not be underestimated. There is a standard in the world. If any country has 2 consecutive quarters of economic recession, it meets the standard of technical recession. German economy to shrink by 0.5% in Q4 of 2022. German economy to shrink by 0.3% in the first quarter of 2023. Why did the German economy suddenly start to experience thunderstorms? In economics, there is a universally recognized truth, that is, the core of the economy is confidence and expectations. As long as confidence does not collapse and expectations remain optimistic, the society and the economy are still stagnant, and they can still turn around against the wind. But if an economy is desperate for the future, even if the economic fundamentals may be good now, it may fall into the abyss immediately. This is also in line with what the Chinese say, the greatest tragedy is to give up. The problem facing the German economy now is that there is no hope, and half of this problem is actually caused by the National Hate Party. First of all, the biggest loser of the Russia-Ukraine conflict is Germany. Germany is the core of the EU's manufacturing industry. In addition to the Russian energy pipeline, Germany has almost completed the Fourth Reich on the economic level. As a result, after the Russian-Ukrainian conflict began, Russian energy was forcibly cut off by the United States, and the European Union was forced to buy democratic energy from the United States. It has been democratically certified, so the price is of course a luxury price. So in an instant, German manufacturing industries shifted to the United States and a mysterious Oriental country. The German manufacturing industry that has not been transferred is also dying because of the instability of the energy supply chain caused by the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. After Germany was hurt, it began to be rational towards China again. German Chancellor Scholz began to speak frequently, saying that we had said something to China before, and then at the end of 2022, he brought a huge German business group to visit our country. After all, after the chaos in Europe, the Chinese market has become extremely important to Germany. At that time, there were 12 German giants traveling with Scholz, such as CEOs of Volkswagen Group, BMW Group, Deutsche Bank, Siemens Group, Merck Pharmaceuticals, Bayer Pharmaceuticals, pharmaceutical companies BioNTech, BASF Chemicals, Wacker Chemicals, Adidas, energy company Geoclimadesign, food manufacturer HIP. Almost all of the German heavyweights followed suit. What's even more exciting is that when they signed up to visit China, there were about 100 applicants who wanted to come. After Scholz finished this matter, Sino-German relations stabilized temporarily, and German companies thought that they could finally find an opportunity to improve the economy, and they were almost squeezed out by Asian before. So at this year's most important Shanghai Auto Show in my country, German car companies spent a lot of effort on publicity. I don't know if you paid attention to the domestic media advertisements at that time. Many of them were advertisements of big German car companies like BMW. As a result, the entire German company ushered in its darkest moment because of 2 employees. That is the BMW mini ice cream incident. Because of this incident, as of April 20th local time, BMW's European shares fell 3.62%, and its market value evaporated by more than 18 billion yuan. Not only did BMW's stock price collapse by itself, but it also collapsed along with it. The Frankfurt Index, which reflects the overall trend of the German stock market, fell by 0.62% over the same period. Why did an ice cream incident in our country cause the German stock market to start to go down as a whole? Let me switch the German perspective for you to see the situation. First, the Russia-Ukraine conflict began, which cut off Russia's cheap energy supply to Germany. Then, the Russia-Ukraine war turned into a tug of war. Biden and Eastern European countries are still fighting each other. The common people in Germany thought, I am a fucking dog, how can I live in the future if I go on like this every day? Europe is in chaos, and I can't count on my own side, so I can only count on overseas markets, so a bunch of German companies rushed to visit China with Scholz. At this time, these German companies thought, finally now that I have a chance to breathe, I can make some money in the Chinese market to continue my life. Then came April, which is the Shanghai Auto Show at the end of the first quarter of this year. Germany is a big car country. Therefore, Germany must focus on this kind of thing. To be honest, I did see that German car companies are very serious at the Shanghai Auto Show. Just take a look at the full version of BMW's promotional poster below. Obviously, everyone can see that BMW is licking and catering to the Chinese market. Of course they know that in order to make money, they must cater to consumers. This is basic common sense. The BMW slogan at the time. BMW's home is in China. It's not just a lip service, it's engraved in my heart. China is where the future lies. The trend of China today will lead the direction of the world tomorrow. Look at the strength of this licking China, although it is a bit nasty, but I think the attitude is okay. The result is 100 secrets and 1 sparse. While the executives of German companies were busy designing strategies to cater to the Chinese market, the operations of the employees of the Hate National Party directly caused BMW, a leading German company, to have a complete collapse of word of mouth at the most critical moment in the first quarter. Although this matter is only a matter of BMW, BMW is the leader of German companies after all. So at this moment, I saw that domestic public opinion not only began to dislike BMW, but also began to question whether all German companies are so arrogant. As for our things, in the era of globalization, the Germans and European investors in the EU are not blind, of course they can see. So in an instant, BMW's market value directly evaporated over 18 billion yuan value. After the signal is fed back to the overall German market, it is an extremely pessimistic expectation. The European Union's domestic market is being blackmailed by Asian every day, kidnapped by American morality, and the economy is about to collapse. When I was about to count on the Chinese market, It turned out that the magic stroke of the two foreign slaves who hated the Nationalist Party abruptly smashed the jaw of the German master, and brought down the German Frankfurt Index by the way. Let me ask you, if you were a German, and what you see now is a local war in the European Union, a crisis in the domestic energy supply chain, and German products being disgusted in the external Chinese market, would you not be able to hold back the tears? The more ironic thing is yet to come. This year, after watching the Shanghai Auto Show, the German Volkswagen went back and laid off all the members of the executive board of the software department, leaving only one person. Then it publicly announced that VW had entered into talks with Huawei to use Huawei software in Chinese models. What does the above mean? It is part of the leading advantages of Chinese car companies. After seeing it, German car companies are deeply aware of their backwardness. When I go back, I will start laying off the old era immediately, and choose China's new technology. In other words, in some fields, Westerners have already started to learn from us. I just want to tell you the fact that in fact, the core countries of the European Union like Germany need China very much now. However, many domestic-hating parties have not changed at all in this regard, and they are still slowly attacking mainlanders hard. And many of these people often work in foreign companies. So, I came to a seemingly absurd but logically consistent conclusion. If many foreign companies want to make money in the Chinese market now, they will increase their domestic economy and income. The only way is to launch a major optimization of the Chinese who hate the National Party, let these people all graduate from foreign companies, and all of them will be laid off. Otherwise, if the Nationalist Party hates it, they may think that they are taking care of us mainlanders for their master by hitting 8,080 like this. Little do they know that the trick is the lifeline of the master, and the confidence of the German economy has collapsed now. The German media recently published an article revealing that the United States, NATO, and the European Union have already begun to plan a second Ukraine. The overall strength of this country is far above that of Ukraine. 10 years. The article stated that the news was in a closed period, and only a very small number of people knew about it. After reading this news, we might as well guess who will be the second Ukraine planned by the United States and NATO. 01 Taiwan is definitely not China. Why not Taiwan? There are 3 reasons. 1. Taiwan is part of China, not a country. The second Ukraine revealed by the German media article is a country, and its comprehensive strength is far above Ukraine. As we all know, Taiwan is not a country, but a part of China, and Taiwan's strength in all aspects is far inferior to that of Ukraine, so it will never be Taiwan. 2. Taiwan is surrounded by the sea, which is completely different from the battlefield environment in Ukraine. In terms of military tactics, Ukraine is the land of the 4 wars. The so-called land of the 4 wars means that the surrounding area extends in all directions, and all reinforcements can rush to help, or escape in all directions. The Ukrainian war has been fought for more than a year and has fallen into a protracted situation. An important reason is that Ukraine's foreign aid is convenient, which prevents Russia from being able to win the war quickly. Taiwan is different. Taiwan is surrounded by the sea and is an isolated island. It is only 200 kilometers away from the mainland of the motherland. Foreign enemies cannot rush to help, and the island has limited resources and cannot support a protracted war. It only needs to besiege March and cut off the sea and air passages for import and export of Taiwan Island, and the Taiwan Independence Forces will have to raise their hands and surrender, crying for their father and mother. 3. China does not allow. Taiwan is part of China, and we will never allow other countries to use China's territory as a battlefield. For the preset battlefield of future wars, we must have 3 principles. The first principle is to set the preset battlefield in the enemy's homeland, and if it is destroyed, the loss will be the enemy's, so it must win. The second principle is to set the preset battlefield in the territory of the enemy's allies. If you destroy the allies, the loss is the enemy's allies, so you must win. The third principle is to set the default battlefield in public sea and airspace. According to the 3 principles of the preset battlefield, we will never allow the Chinese territory of Taiwan to be used as the default battlefield. If it is broken, it will also lose China's wealth and Chinese people. 2. Japan? Unlikely. According to the German media, Japan has the greatest possibility of becoming the second Ukraine. For 3 reasons. 1 is that Japan's national strength is far above that of Ukraine. Meet the first condition. The second is that Japan is a country. That is the second condition. The third is that Japan has unresolved issues with China over the Diaoyu Islands, the Ryukyu Islands, and history, and has reason and determination to go to war. When Fumio Kishida shot and killed the head of Yuichi Sakamoto's division, I judged that Japan did not want to go to war with China. Who killed this Yuichi Sakamoto? There are only three possibilities: the United States, China, and Japan itself. It is impossible for the United States to kill Yuichi Sakamoto. It is estimated that this personnel appointment was arranged by the United States, with the purpose of triggering a war between China and Japan. As for China, the possibility of killing Yuichi Sakamoto is very low. Therefore, it is most likely that Fumio Kishida shot and killed Yuichi Sakamoto. Because of Yuichi Sakamoto, it will bring a crisis of national annihilation to Japan. Japan, a country, cannot become the second Ukraine. There are three reasons. One is that Japan's land area is too small, only half the size of Ukraine. The area of Japan is about 300,000 square kilometers, and the area of Ukraine is about 600,000 square kilometers, almost twice the size of Japan. The larger the country, the more it can withstand bombing, and conversely, the smaller the country, the less it can withstand bombing. In terms of bombing, Japan is not as good as Ukraine. Bombing Japan will basically destroy it in a month. Therefore, Japan's national strength is very weak. As long as it is bombed, its national strength will soon tend to zero. The second is that Japan lacks resources and cannot be self-sufficient. Japan is a country that lacks resources. As long as there is a war, it is a gamble. Either win or destroy the country, the risk is too great. So now Japan is more cautious. What's more, facing China, a victorious country with a nuclear power, as long as you dare to take risks, the only way is to destroy the country, and you don't even have the qualifications to become Ukraine. The third is that China is too powerful, and Japan dare not. China is a victorious country in World War II. If Japan dares to take the risk of going to war, then China is qualified to bomb Japan like the United States, completely destroying Japan's industrial base and war potential within a few hours. China is a nuclear power, an aerospace power, and a naval power, which determines that Japan dare not become the second Ukraine. 03 Korea? Very likely. South Korea is very likely to become the second Ukraine. Why do you say that? There are three reasons. 1. South Korea is most determined to become Ukraine. South Korea has the greatest determination to become the second Ukraine since Yenzhou came to power. This determination is greater than that of Japan. Fumio Kishida of Japan does not want to become the second Ukraine, but Yenzhou is willing. This is a wicked thing, and it is not well received. 2. South Korea is already anti-DPRK, anti-Russian, and anti-China. After Yenzhou came to power, he has broken the friendship with North Korea, provoked North Korea many times, and has a strong anti-DPRK nature. During the Ukrainian war, South Korea publicly supported Ukraine and supported Ukrainian arms, which angered Russia and was strongly anti-Russian. Yenzhou publicly crossed the red line on the Taiwan issue, and even sent fighter planes to land in Taiwan, blatantly interfering in China's internal affairs, which is strongly anti-China. Therefore, both China, Russia and North Korea have the determination to bring South Korea into the preset battlefield. South Korea's biggest weakness is that the Seoul Economic Circle is only 40 kilometers away from the 38th parallel. Under the firepower of most of North Korea's artillery and drones, if it is bombed, South Korea's economy will collapse overnight and become a poor and backward country. 3. South Korean President Yenzhou completely obeys the United States. After Yenzhou came to power, only the United States followed suit, completely obeying the strategic needs of the United States hegemony, willing to become the pawn and cannon fodder of the United States. Therefore, South Korea is likely to preemptively trigger a peninsula war. The conspiracy of the United States and Britain must support Japan as the second Ukraine. In my opinion, South Korea is most likely to become the second Ukraine. Of course, once a war breaks out on the peninsula, Japan will not be able to escape and be included in the battlefield, unless Japan cuts off all ties with South Korea, which is almost impossible. All in all, as a hegemonic country, the United States will not be reconciled to the collapse of its hegemony. Initiating the Ukrainian war in Asia is the last desperate struggle of the United States. We will wait and see. If a person has heavy karma, he will have a lot of delusional thoughts, distracting thoughts. Usually he is restless and restless. When meditating, chanting Buddha, chanting sutras, and reciting mantras, distracting thoughts are flying around, and sometimes he can't control it like a wild horse. Therefore, delusion is karma, that is to say, delusion is a manifestation of karma. The methods to eliminate karma are chanting Buddha, repenting, releasing life, doing good deeds, saving karmic debtors and so on. When you find that there are fewer distracting thoughts when chanting Buddha, scriptures, and mantras, and it is easier to enter tranquility, it means that karma has decreased. In the method of reciting Buddha's name, these patriarchs and good teachers often enlighten us, let go of the world of body and mind, let go of all relationships, and bring up righteous thoughts. What is righteous thoughts? No thought is called righteous thought, and no thought means the absence of all delusions, not the absence of righteous thoughts. What is delusion? Anything for oneself is delusion. Where does karma come from? Where does life and death come from? Where does reincarnation come from? As long as there is a self, there will be karma, birth, and death, and reincarnation. Therefore, it is said in Buddhism that the first person who enters Buddhism to attain the Tao is selflessness. The Diamond Sutra says, there is no appearance of self, no appearance of human beings, no appearance of sentient beings, and no appearance of life. Without ego, you have entered Buddhism. No self, not only the selfishness is gone, but also the afflictions, karma, and birth and death are gone. If we want to truly obtain the superior merits and virtues of Buddhism in this life, we must practice seriously. Where do you practice your practice? Patriarchs often teach us, cultivate from the root. What is it at all? It's just a thought, a delusion. How to get rid of delusions is called fundamental cultivation. The Buddha told us in the scriptures, every thought we have has a result, and a thought is a karma of life and death, which is terrible. With one good thought, the 3 good paths will be born. With one evil thought, the 3 evil paths will be born. If there is nothing to do, if you think about the past, if you think about goodness, you are in the 3 good ways, if you think about evil, you are in the 3 evil ways again. So don't think about the past, and don't think about the future. One must recite the Buddha's name as early as possible. The so-called, training a soldier for 1,000 days can only be used for a short time. We are training every day now, with only Amitabha Buddha in our hearts, no distracting thoughts, and no karma of any kind. What is karma? Delusion is karma. Without false thoughts, there will be no karma, and life and death will be at ease. Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva's practice of reciting the Buddha's name is, all the 6 roots are captured, and pure thoughts follow one after another. The voice of Amitabha Buddha continues continuously, uninterrupted for 26 hours. This is a good example for those who recite the Buddha. Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva is the Bodhisattva of eternal awakening. He is, all the 6 sense organs are captured, the pure thoughts are continuous, and the Buddha's name is uninterrupted all day long. Even the Bodhisattva of eternal awakening is like this, let alone our beginners.